Hello, hello. What's going on, everyone? I'm trying a slightly different mic setup again. Trying to find like the best setup for this sort of thing. So let me know if the volumes are all right and all of that. And yeah, my stats show me at least one person or maybe two people in the stream. So welcome everyone. Nice to have you back or here for the first time, whatever your viewing history is. I feel like the YouTube stats have been a little flaky lately. Sometimes showing me 0 viewers when there clearly have been people there, and sometimes the other way around. Regardless, let's begin and start with the actual thing I was thinking we would do today. So, let's see what we had. So sort of like previous streams, or at least I think like the last stream, I prepared a whole thing for this session, and then my plan sort of got a little derailed. So I was thinking I would have almost a whole workday worth of time to block out a new vehicle for the game. And that turned out to not really be the case. But I did have a little bit of time to do that. So I have something for you, and hopefully it's something that we can start working on and maybe get back to later a little bit. So this is a new vehicle that I have been sort of planning to add to the game for quite a long time, actually. It's needed for the campaign progression, essentially. And yeah, I figured I would have, like I said, basically one work day worth of time to block this guy out. In the end, I had like maybe a couple of hours to figure this out. But this is what we have currently. I think this is enough to actually sort of prove the idea. So this guy, as can sort of be perhaps assumed from the name Gripper. This is a vehicle that is supposed to be able to grip things. So you have this almost sort of like claws here. Let's see if I can actually work my way around the blender this time. Let's add these to the selection. Set the cursor there and then set the origin to the 3D cursor. So now we should be able to nicely sort of open this and close it. And if you can kind of imagine both of these sides opening and closing at the same time, and also of course you have this whole thing here which can sort of move along this axis, so it can move back and forth, and then it can tilt this guy. So like this. Now it's a little tricky to get all of these guys to follow along unless I change their pivot points, right? But basically that would be the idea, that we have like this guy. You can let's rotate only around X. Actually, maybe we can do that. Maybe we can set cursor to selected, and then we just take all of these and set the origin to 3D cursor. So now we should be able to actually rotate all of them around X like this. Right, so it can sort of can lift it back like this. If it has something that it wants to carry like in here. Should we add something here to this maybe? And the 3D cursor there. Location 0. And move it forward a little bit. Something like that. Right? That's pretty much the center of it. So if you imagine it lifting up something like a cylinder, for example, it would be roughly this size, right? And we can make this larger, like so. So now I can kind of imagine, let's make this actually the pivot of that as well, right? Oh, not like that, but set origin to 3D cursor, like so. And then we can take all of these guys, and it can sort of carry it kind of like this. And I had this this idea of like these counterweights. Almost kind of look like the counterweights from like a medieval trebuchet or something. So that's why it has like a little bit of space here. Which might seem a little weird, like in a sci-fi game, but I think it might look pretty cool, especially if we animate them later on. To have these things sort of dangling there. Or if not, then we can just get rid of them. And yeah, and then of course when it picks something up, it would essentially sort of reach down to the ground. Now this thing doesn't have wheels yet, and you can see here I've cut out these spaces for the wheels where the wheels would go. So I'm thinking that the rear wheels will be the ones that actually turn, and then it would have like slightly perhaps larger front wheels. So let's maybe make that happen as well to get like a better idea of what we're doing here. So how should we do this? Let's just cursor to selected, and then we go to object mode. We put in a cylinder. We want to rotate the cylinder along the y-axis. Make it much narrower. And the radius a bit larger. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. And then probably move it down quite a bit. So the larger vehicles, the larger wheels are at the front, with this one clearly, and the smaller ones are at the back. So I think that should be kind of interesting in many ways. That also means that we can just copy that over and move it there. We need to scale it down a little bit. Maybe from the side. Something like that. And actually they need to be able to rotate, so like as in steer. So they need to be even probably a little smaller. And this means that when you have this whole thing, everything except this scale mannequin here, which we can exclude. I actually want to sort of grab this guy, move it upwards a little bit, and then rotate it. Right. Okay. We want to probably rotate around maybe the median point in this case. Right. Something like this. Something like that. And that means that when this thing hits the ground, it almost like hits the ground sort of in a perpendicular fashion. Not quite, but almost. Yeah, we might have to actually move this joint upwards a little bit. Now that I look at this and see what's going on. So maybe we'll start by doing that actually. So that would mean that this whole sort of assembly here, this thing, whoop, it would have to move up probably to like around here, just to give it a bit more sort of space to actually grab something. And we can use some like clever gameplay like magnets and things like that to actually make things sort of snap into place as it's carrying them, but still I would like it to be mostly sort of physics driven. So what we can do is we can put in a plane here, then we can scale up the plane a whole lot so we get some sort of ground. And let's maybe just add, how should we do this? Yeah, we can probably set the center of this, or the pivot for these guys, to be origin. I'm basically thinking we could mirror these things so we would have 4 wheels, but actually I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna be do it a little differently, because we'll want to have these pivots here in the center of the wheels in a second anyway. So yeah, let's just move these over and sort of do it by eye now. And here we can see like, okay, how much does this actually have space to rotate? Not like a whole lot actually. It's almost sort of hitting the insides of that wheel cover. So maybe what we'll want to do is just ever so slightly scale these down. We don't need to do it in the x-axis, but in the z and y, like that. And that means that we'll once again want to just rotate everything ever so slightly, like this. And this is sort of the angle that I'm thinking this vehicle will sort of be standing at when it holds something, or when it stands on the ground. So yeah, I'm not super happy with this chassis. I think it looks kind of meh. I think this gripper arm here turned out all right-ish, but the body is kind of like, the idea is here, but this thing sort of looks like the back of like a semi truck or something, and that wasn't really the point there. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, now if we take again all of these guys, take that one and that one, and now we have this plane here which represents the ground. You can see that it kind of hits the ground a little bit there. What if we move these guys up to around maybe there? So now we have a bit more space. It still sort of hits the ground there, but essentially this is what I'm sort of thinking. Like if these grippers are sort of rotated out, then there will be space for it to essentially kind of grip something. Let's add an edge here as the what do you call it, like the reference. All right, and it's still doing it by that one, so that's not nice. Let's rotate by the 3D cursor, right? 3D cursor is there. Put that there, and then we rotate the 3D cursor. Now we should be able to. This is almost what I want. Not quite, but almost. And we need to move it back in. So basically, what I want to do here is just make sure that this gripper arm, all of its different parts, have enough space to move as it is sort of I think active element, is it? No, individual origins, I think it is. Yeah. Yeah, except this guy's going a bit crazy now. But yeah, I think maybe, probably something like this is going to be good enough. It will actually be easier to test these things out than in the game when we have everything sort of posed correctly and we have the whole like transform hierarchy set up for it. But let's move these things up a little bit. So I'm gonna just concentrate on the chassis for now. Basically, we want to move these what do you call these things? The place where the arm is sort of fastened to the chassis. I want to move them up, and we want to move them up along this front sort of face here. So I think what we'll do, we'll duplicate and then we'll snap them to some of these, if we can manage to snap it correctly. It does want to snap it annoyingly to the center of the thing. That's a bit annoying. If we get rid of that face, right? Yeah, still wants to snap it to the center of the object. Why is that? Oh well. Maybe we'll just do this by eye for now. This is still just a block out. I'm gonna remodel this properly when we have like actual when you have the thing working in game, basically. So we can just merge that at last. Here we're gonna need to put in a couple more vertices. Gonna move that down there. Gonna move that down there. And what do we have here? Like so. That's one way to get it to snap to those. Right, same thing here. You actually need to probably snap that to that one. And again, here we'll need two more of these subdivisions. Last and last. And then we can just get rid of these lower ones. Oh, probably like so. Probably like that. Like that. And then maybe we try this again. So it's good to do these sort of quick tests while you still have the model in such a rough state, essentially, or a block-out state that you don't need to redo a whole lot if you just want to test something out. Right, so now it kind of works. Now this is sort of actually high enough that I'm just thinking, should we just sort of move it inside the body? Should it just sit like here, maybe? Or something. We can give it a little more space if it needs to. Yeah, you can see that it's sort of intersecting there. then you wouldn't need those things at all, actually. Yeah, maybe that's not actually a bad thing. Maybe that's not actually a bad thing. I want more undo steps in Blender. Where can I find the undo steps in Blender 4? I just updated to Blender 4. And oh, there we go, undo steps. Let's do 256 at least. That should be better. Yeah, I don't know why they limited to 32 by default. It's always way too little for me. And I realized that, oh, this thing that I did was actually just a very bad idea, and then I want to undo it completely, and then it's kind of tricky. Tricky. All right, we can just actually dissolve those edges. Right, so now we just need to give it a bit more space here. So maybe what we'll do is actually we'll sort of look at it from this direction. I can just drag this down. Maybe I can even drag it down to there. Oh, but we still need to only move it in the Z and Y axes. Something like that. Now it can sort of fit in there. Much better. Yeah, we need to come up with some nicer sort of connection to the body here. But I think this will do. I think that will do. Something like that. Yeah, it doesn't need to be there on the front. It was just something that I thought looked kind of interesting. But we can still make it look interesting here by just adding some shape here to the actual chassis. Okay, so now then, what is the rotation like? I think this is pretty good. Like, yeah, we're intersecting the ground a little bit there, and that's kind of to be expected. I mean, if you have something that's really long, then you might just sort of have to actually grab it a bit differently. Something like that. And let's set the origin to the 3D cursor. All right. Then I can sort of grab things without them intersecting the ground. Like these sides will obviously eventually intersect the ground, but they will be closing as you are sort of lifting it. So yeah, we'll see. I think this is probably a good place to start. And I think most things that this thing will actually lift won't be these. This actually will have this sort of big diameter, if you will. If we reset the rotation. Oh, it's actually not rotated. That's the location. Yeah. So if we now scale this down to something like that, maybe. I think this is kind of closer to what. Yeah, it gets skewed a little bit because it is clearly rotated. It's just that it's the actual mesh data is rotated. This object is not rotated. Yeah, that's a little annoying. That's a little annoying. Yeah, I'm doing all of this by hand now, or by eye, shall I say, at this point. And then when we get a bit further and we sort of solidify these shapes and how the sort of overall look of the vehicle is supposed to be, then you start doing things a bit more sort of carefully. Yeah, something like that. I think that's fine. And then these things can sort of close around the thing. All right, so just to sort of get this guy into the game, what we should probably start with is just exporting this thing as a mesh. We don't need any wheels or anything yet at this point. Just want to make sure the scale is somewhat good to make sure that it sort of fits in the various places in the level where it needs to fit. So let's do that. And yeah, this is rotated. So let's undo the rotation. Actually undo. Yeah, we can just undo that rotation. That's completely fine. And we'll probably need to actually, before we do that, we'll probably need to move everything down a little bit. So let's grab this and try to, we don't need to grab the guy, everything but the guy. Move it downwards a little bit. And then yeah, so this rotation we can undo. Those things are still done just by hand, but let's move them back a bit. We can move the ground down a bit. And now we can see that now that it's no longer angled, then the back wheels are, or the rear wheels as they're called, are no longer in place. Something like that maybe. What about this guy? Also has a rotation. Let's undo the rotation. Same with this. Same with that probably. And same with these. Yeah, so now it's sort of, now the thing is unrotated, but that's not really realistic because now the rear wheels are sort of in the air. It's very difficult to see here, but here you can see it. But this is what we want to have it like when we want to export it. So let's export it. I've never exported anything from Blender 4 into the game engine, to the basis engine yet. So let's see how this works. At least the OBJ exporter and importer was completely redone, or shall we say the already in previous versions it was redone, but the old one was actually removed from 4.0, so I had to update some of my tools to work with the new OBJ exporter. And yeah, that was a bit tricky. So let's see, we don't want anything but the meshes, we only want the selected objects, we want Z to be forward, we want Y to be up. Yeah, that looks good, and then we can call this basis mesh, and we want to export into the gripper blockout, and we want to call this chassis. And actually one thing we want to do probably before we start poking at it is just do a smart UV project. We should have some sort of UV map for the thing. It's not a very good one, but it's something that we'll have to do for now. All right, now we can re-export. I typically have FBX exporting added to my quick favorites, so that I can just export like that. Makes it nicer when you iterate on something. All right, and here we have the asset server has picked up on our change. gripper blockout chassis.bin mesh. We have 2 of them because obviously I did one before the UV unwrapping as well. So let's just bring this into the game, and we can do that by actually creating a proper game object type for this vehicle. We're gonna need one sooner or later anyway. So why not actually do that? Now, vehicle blueprints. So we're gonna need a whole bunch of different things for the vehicles. They're probably the most complicated objects in the game. But yeah, we don't need to have everything right now. We can look at the test vehicle, for example. What does it have? It has the dynamic body transform component. If we connect to the game here, we get a nice preview. So not these yellow spheres, but these other things that are unfortunately also yellow. That shows the collision mesh. So that's the convex hull that we have here. Then we have 4 cylinders. Those would be the wheels. Oh, and then we actually also have another convex hull, because this collision here is actually not convex. So we need 2 of them basically. Then we have a vehicle controller component. That's important to be able to drive the thing. We have a means vehicle component, which is also equally important here. This allows us to set up and tweak the physics of the vehicle from JSON. Vehicle controller type 4-wheel drive. It's probably what we'll want for this as well. Volume spheres. So these volume spheres are really interesting. That's something that I added last time actually. This ability to represent the approximate shape with a bunch of spheres like this, and that's what you see here. So if you just make like one of these something else, you can see the volume sort of moving up there in the view, and that's really handy. You can do distance calculations based on those, but they're sort of annoying when they show up here all the time, when you can't toggle them on and off like this. So what I think that we should do next, actually, just to make our life a little easier, is to actually add a checkbox here to the means vehicle component, whether or not we actually want to debug draw those. So let's just start by doing that. Otherwise, I'm gonna go crazy with those volume spheres there. So let's do that. We have the vehicle. Avatar is not the correct one. It's a means vehicle component. This guy. And it has the means vehicle component properties. Here we have a list of volume spheres. So we can just add here a debug draw volume spheres. And it's quite simply a boolean. We'll probably want to move it right next to those. Switch marker position, yeah, that's another thing that's not really related to volume spheres. So let's have this default to false. And then here in the update, we can check if that is actually true or false. And yeah, there's a comment here that this is a slightly nasty way to actually determine if we are in the asset browser or not. But that can't be helped. So, yeah, so we have an optional pointer to the blueprint properties, and we basically assert that we have those when we create the object, so we don't need to check for that later. We can quite simply do if we are on the client and self blueprint properties, then we get the actual type out of the optional type, debug draw volume spheres, like that. that should be good. Then we just quite simply need to add it to the data. So let's go to means data, metadata, component UI definitions, and we go to means vehicle component. Oh, I need to update this. Open it in text editor. And right, so we have the volume spheres here. That's an array. Let's call this debug draw volume spheres. Type would be a boolean. Default would be probably false, I guess. Debug draw volume spheres. And yeah, I can just copy that there as well. And this is now what we want to actually call it in the JSON data. So debug draw volume spheres, like that. So now if we go back here and then we reload the UI definitions, we have the test vehicle. Oh, we need to open that again. Oh, I have something wrong here. Let's see, what do I have? Right, that's probably not supposed to be a string, right? Pretty sure. So now we should have a checkbox here for the thing. Yes, debug draw volume of volume spheres. Yeah, maybe we don't need the debug there, actually. Let's just call it draw volume spheres. I mean, it's using the debug draw API to do it, but maybe it's better if it's just called draw volume spheres. Like so. And there we go, draw volume spheres. That's good. Draw volume spheres was the JSON name. We need to read it out of the data, the JSON data. So let's call this draw volume spheres as well. And self draw volume spheres, that would be props value draw volume spheres. And I think that should build. Let's see what's going on. Oh, it's access denied. That's probably because we have it running, right? Yes. Let's unload the editor. And now it built immediately. So now if we go here, and we reload this guy. Oh, missing field. Right, and that's because we haven't saved this yet. So we reloaded the thing. We can do it one more time. We open this and then we need to save it once. Now we can run the thing and it should be happy. Seems to be happy, right? Okay. Now we can toggle this. Yeah, we need to save the thing in between to actually have it reflected here, but that's just how it works. So that's good. Okay, so now we can see these are the actual collision convex hulls for this object. So that's that's these two that you see here in the transform. So the first one is always considered to be the hull of the chassis, essentially. After that, you have as many shapes as you have wheels. They're kind of stupidly now placed here inside of the thing, because the runtime will then pose them correctly as they're supposed to be, like moving along with the suspension and everything like that. So we have 4 wheels, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you can have additional chassis shapes after that. But the vehicle system in Traction Point currently expects the wheels to be to be the one that follows the first shape. But that's fine. So we'll have a dynamic body transform component. That's what we need to have that. And then we can probably just leave everything else out. Just put in a mesh component for now so that we can see the actual new vehicle there in the scene. So we can add a new one. Let's call it vehicle / gripper. And we add a component. We add actually we get rid of the default transform component. And then we add a special kind of transform component, a dynamic body transform component. Like so. If we save this, we get a box here, beautiful box. We can make it a bit heavier, because if you have a wheel or a vehicle with mass 10, then bad things will happen. Let's not do anything about the shape yet, because we'll get the mesh put in, and then we'll have a much easier way to actually see what's going on here. So let's see. We have the gripper blockout chassis, and we can just use one of the blockout materials. Maybe a green one here. And there we go. That is our beautiful new vehicle. So we can try to sort of at least somewhat approximate the size of the thing. So maybe something like that. Maybe something like how long is it? 8? No, that's a bit much. 7, still a bit much. 6.5. That looks all right. And then it's a bit higher than that, or taller. And then we can move it up like so. And maybe move it excuse me, maybe move it back a little bit as well. Something like that. Yeah. Something like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. Hi, investigate. Is this asset browser something you made? Yes, it is. It is something I made. It is sort of part of the tool set for the engine. And it sort of shows it's a little crappy. Like this thing is made just with Windows Forms. Windows Forms is clearly not meant to have windows with like this many controls. Like we have hundreds and thousands of controls here if you count all the labels and all the text fields and everything. And so it takes a while for it to actually populate this. You can see that it sort of pauses for a while. But yeah, it is nice in the sense that it integrates with the engine correctly. So you see essentially exactly what you have in the game here. Okay, let's shut this preview down, and we can go back to the level. And now we can place these things into the scene, and we can see if we have like any kind of, oh, it's called vehicle. Yeah, that's not good. Let's fix that real quick. So this guy should be called vehicles, just to fit in the same blueprint group as the rest of the vehicles. So now we should be able to just like minimize everything except the vehicles, and here we can find our gripper next to the other guys. Right. So we can see that it's a little larger than the current scout vehicle, which may or may not be an issue. Yeah, it just falls to the ground now. It looks kind of sad there. But the thing I'm sort of interested in is, does it fit, for example, inside one of these monorails? Because at one point during the mission, you're supposed to be able to actually drive this thing. Or shall we say, you're supposed to be, that is supposed to be an option for you to take one of these grippers and use this monorail to transport some things. I'm not going to spoil any more than that. It's great, it seems to have a lot of utility. Oh, yes, I assume we're talking about this thing still. Yeah, it's alright, it's mostly used to design these things that I call blueprints, which have obviously nothing to do with like Unreal blueprints. And it's a relatively fast way to just find something that's part of your game project. So I want to find like all, I don't know, materials, for example. I'm going to filter by material and you can find everything here. And some of these things also have some special functionality, like you can, for example, take a PNG of something. Oh, that's an editor thing, but let's take like a dust particle. Yeah, so some of these you want to set like whether it's using pre-multiplied alpha or what texture format it will use at runtime, etc., etc. So it has a few editors for certain things, but it's kind of limited still. But yeah, I add stuff as I need them, basically. Okay. Anyway, I think this sort of looks like it might fit here in the thing. Obviously, it still has the gripper arm that will be put there in the front. Oh, and it's apparently it's using the same. It's using the same material as that. Let's switch that out to maybe the blue one. Yeah, I got blue. It's probably alright. Yeah, the blueprints don't actually hot load currently, so you have to sort of reload the thing if you want those things to show up. Anyway, we could try turning this into an actual vehicle now, rather than it being just a box, basically. So let's get rid of that. And probably even close this. I think we don't need that for a little bit. Right, so we'll most likely want to have a bunch of the same components as this guy. Not all of them, but most of them. So, game unit component, yes. AI brain component, probably, if you want it to be able to drive by itself. And AI driving as well, yes, those two go together. Tire track component, probably. Vehicle FX, yes. Debug object component, yes, probably. Actually, yes, we want to have that, because this is the thing that allows us to set it as the avatar directly from within the game. We have a mesh. Vehicle avatar, yes. Again, if we want it to be the avatar. Auto gearbox, most likely. Vehicle wheel renderer, most likely. Means vehicle component, most likely. Or shall we say definitely. Right, so we will want to have essentially all of the same things that this guy has. Maybe we won't actually have the... we can actually even do that. We can do the exact same thing as we have currently. So the way we can do this is we can just export to this guy. It appears down here, blueprints. So this is just a JSON file. And we have here test vehicles. or vehicles slash test vehicle. So we just take everything in this guy down to there. Let's put it here in the other editor. And then we go down to our new guy. The new guy is here, and it has just these two components. So we can quite simply take all of the components in here. The test vehicle has, just copy paste them in here. And we need to make sure that we don't, yeah, that's the mesh. We'll want to use that as the mesh one. We can override the transform component. So where was the mesh? There's the mesh. Let's replace it with the thing that we actually put in ourselves. And then for this, I'm gonna remove that other convex hull. We can leave the first one there, and then we can actually modify that when we have some more sensible values. So now that we go back here to the gripper, now it has a lot more stuff, and that's good. So this is the important part. That's the vehicle description path. That's just the JSON file that allows us to specify all kinds of things. Now if we open the preview again, you can see that okay, now we have the collision for the other vehicle, and that's completely to be expected because it's essentially like this convex hull here. So now we should essentially be able to drive with this, and it's like obviously not going to work how it should, but it should still be able to drive with it. Here we go, and it has like the wheels in the wrong place and everything, but it it does work as a vehicle. Right, so you can see that the back wheel, the test vehicle has the same sized wheels for all of the wheel, or for both the front and the back wheels have the same sort of mesh, probably actually the exact same. This one won't have. You can see here that just by looking at this, by like eyeing it, this back wheel is probably a little larger than this one will want to have, and the front wheels might actually be okay, or then they need to be a bit larger still. But what we can do here now is we can go back to the asset server. We go to game vehicle devs test vehicle JSON. So let's search for test vehicle JSON here and explore to that guy. Just take that and we copy it and call it gripper as well. And now we can just simply, oh, what happened? It jumped around for some reason. There we go. Yeah, this probably hasn't. Oh, it actually did realize that it was there. Nice. Nice. Okay. Yeah, these volume spheres are not going to be correct, so let's just actually remove them. I'm going to add like 1 here to make it like 0, 0, 0, and radius like, I don't know, 2. Yeah, and it gives us something like that, but that's fine. We can then later on when we know how we actually want those to sort of what we want the shape of the vehicle to be, we can set in add those spheres there. I'm defining my ECS component values with this program. Yeah, I'm not using ECS at all, actually. This engine is sort of, it's more similar probably to like the game object / mono behavior style Unity architecture than an ECS. So yeah, no ECS. But yes, they are sort of like prefabs. exactly. Sort of. All right. Now, the cool thing is this. We can take this gripper JSON thing, and we can see what it actually has. Now we don't need the blueprints anymore. So this is all data that can be updated on the fly, which is something that's kind of important when you want to tune a vehicle. So let's see what we have. We have chassis mass, 1.5 tons, and center of mass. Like some of these things we actually need to specify here as well. Like the mass for a dynamic object is specified here. You can see that even for the test vehicle, it's actually just set to 1 because this vehicle definition will then override it. These things are used just if you create like a dynamic object that you want to like kick around. But we override some of these values because these are going straight to the vehicle SDK. Then we have engine max rotation speed. I think this is like radians per second or something like that. Engine max torque, just how much power there is if we have a differential. Gear ratios, and then the auto gearbox parameters. So these are just going to be completely wrong currently. I gotta hop off, but always appreciate the videos. Yes, thanks for stopping by. Have a good one. Maybe I'll see you in an upcoming stream. Yes, so these are just going to be completely wrong. We don't really need to worry about that right now. But this gripper is obviously going to be a much slower vehicle than something like the scout car, which is probably like the fastest car in the game, essentially. And then we set up something called a wheelbase. So this is like you need to specify essentially everything that you want here, and then if you don't specify it for the individual wheels, then it's going to use this wheelbase stuff. So you set something like max suspension compression, but then you can override it here later if you want to. If you don't list it here, then it uses it from here. And the interesting thing here for us now currently is we have left front wheel, right front wheel, and these are the steering ones, right? So we'll actually want the rear wheels to be the steering ones for this gripper. So we'll want to actually move this to these guys instead. And I think we want the wheels to rotate like the opposite direction. Otherwise it's gonna steer in the wrong direction as well. So I think we might want to use a negative angle there. I think that should cover it. Then we have some camera stuff here, camera position thingies. But we don't need to mess with those currently because the vehicle is roughly the same size as this guy. So that should be fine. Right. Did I set the gripper there? I did. Let's save that one more time just to be sure. We can disconnect that. We can reload this. And now let's see what happens. So we need to set this as the avatar. And now we can see that, oh, it's it is still, well, you can't see it obviously, but it is still turning in the wrong direction. So that's interesting. Let's see, what did I do? Maybe I actually took this into account, did I? No, I don't think I did. Okay. Let's see, steer angle. Blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, so those... I wonder if I actually even can currently... I can use this now to like try this out. But oh, now it is. Yeah, now it is actually steering correctly. Yeah, I know this is kind of boring to you because like you can't see what's going on here, but anyway, now it is steering actually correctly. So I'll probably just take that into account in the code. Well, now we need to make sure that these wheels are offset properly. So how should we do that? Let's put this on this side and let's put this on the other side. Like so. I want gripper.json. And now we can just move these things while the game is running. So the rear wheels need to be moved further back. Let's try like 0.8. Oh, and it's possible that I actually need to... Yeah, I need to move the vehicle because the physics engine doesn't actually update unless if it's been sort of sleeping. You can see it sort of jumps back there. Yeah, that's a little annoying actually. Maybe I can do something about that at some point. But that's like physics trying to be helpful and not updating things unless it really needs to, so to speak. Okay, that's good. That's good. The radius is gonna be a bit smaller for these rear wheels, but we can't really make that happen until we have like a mesh that looks like it is small. Well, we can make it happen from like a physics perspective, but it's difficult to see what is going on. So I think we should make bespoke wheel meshes for this guy to make it easier to like place these guys correctly. But in the meantime, let's offset these front wheels a little bit. A little more, maybe 2.2. Now that's starting to be pretty. Well, it's a bit too far. Let's try to. Oh, gamma. Can't type. Yeah, that's pretty close to where we want to be. And then we want them to be higher up, like both of them should be higher up. But they should be at like unequal heights, essentially. So, or should they? Maybe they should be at the same height, but the real wheels should just be smaller, and that makes it get this nice little angling. So let's try that. Let's try like 0.6 something. That's not like the front wheels. Yep, that looks all right. Same thing with the back wheels or rear wheels. Yeah, I think this still looks like they need to be a little higher up. Let's try like maybe 0.5. Like this thing doesn't need to and shouldn't have like a whole lot of clearance because it's like meant to move things around on like tarmac essentially. Yeah, something like that. And then we want the front wheels to be a little further apart. So maybe 1.3. What does that look like? It's a bit too far, maybe. 25. And 25 on the other side as well. And then I think I actually want to move these a little closer to each other, but yeah, we'll see. Yeah, now you can see that the sort of wheel geometry they're clipping through. That's of course because those wheels are still too large. But yeah, this is starting to look and feel like a thing. It's going way too fast. So let's make the engine max rotation speed like half, maybe. Yeah, now the, like I said, the gear ratios are just completely wrong. The gear ratios are wrong, and the actual parameters which tell the system when to switch to another gear is also completely wrong. So it can't actually get out of first gear now if we don't mess around with those, but I'm not gonna do that currently. So let's give it a bit more engine rotation speed. Alright, so now we can get to like 50-60 kilometers. It's actually probably way too fast for this guy, but it's fine. It's probably alright to just be able to test it with some over the top values. Okay. Yeah, the rotation speed, actually like turning speed, is probably a bit too fast for the... I think I had a value for that here as well. Let's see. Did I not actually have that? Pretty sure I did. Pretty sure we actually did that on video for the mother vehicle. Let's see. Mother vehicle has has 8 wheels, max steering angle. Yeah, where do we actually set the steering speed? Because like the mother vehicle has much more appropriate turning speed. Like if I turn now, it takes like several seconds for it to actually like rotate the wheels in the direction that you want. And that's kind of something I want for this. Like this is way too fast for a vehicle like this, I feel. But yeah, I can't quite remember where I actually adjusted that. Yeah, you can slide around with this guy quite easily, actually. It's interesting how something which turns with the back wheels just feels completely different to something which steers with the front wheels. Okay. Oh, here we go. Yes. Steer rise rate. Steer fall rate. Yes. That's what we want. Let's put those into the gripper. And yeah, now we can see that now it actually takes quite a while for it to turn those wheels. Yeah, this is probably better. This is probably better. Might be a little too slow actually, even now, but we'll figure that out. Yeah, I thought that was actually on the wheelbase. That's why I didn't find it originally. Okay, That's cool. So I guess next thing would be to add some wheel meshes for this, so that we have a distinct front wheel and rear wheel mesh, and then we can fine tune those wheel placements. But as you can see, you can actually create vehicles with this system and in this game without having to really code anything. I mean, we did a little bit of code earlier, but that's just something that I wanted to sort of have and wasn't required for this. So if you're not afraid to get your hands dirty with a little bit of JSON, then it's actually not that tricky to create a new vehicle. Even something that works completely differently to what we already had, such as steering with the rear wheels. Okay. Let's go back to Blender and let's export probably these guys out of there, right? But maybe we can make them a little more interesting than just simple cylinders. So what do we have? So the radius of this guy is the y-axis, for example. It's like half of this value. We want to probably round it off to something nice and round. Oh. Come on. It's like 49. Yeah. And the radius of this guy, is over 1 meter. So it's actually quite a big wheel here in the front. And that was 49. What do we have the radii for the wheels currently? Radius is 0.6. Okay. I think maybe we'll make these 48. Right? That would make the dimensions 0.96. Yeah, I think so. So let's take just 2 of these guys to make it clear what is what. So we can call this rear wheel, and we'll quite simply put this down to 96, and same thing on the y-axis, 96, and maybe it can be 0.4 in width. Let's take the plane away. Something like that. That should be able to turn quite nicely and easily in its slot. I think so. And then let's add something here to the front side of this, that we can actually see like what is the front side and what is the back side. Like so. Just I don't even know what to do here. I don't really even know what to do here. Let's like maybe inset this a little bit and then grab that and move it out. Nah, that doesn't look all that good. Yeah, making good looking wheels is like a whole thing. That's a whole thing. Let's scale that down a bit further, maybe. It's fine. Let's leave it like that for now. Maybe we can take this thing here and just scale it down as well a little bit, something like that. You can clearly see like what is the outside now. Okay, so that's that. And we have this guy. 1.36. Yeah, it's a little big. That's a little large. But I don't know. Maybe that will be fine. Let's leave that as it is for now. Just round that down, and we'll do the same thing here. We'll just do something with this to make it clear what is like the inside and what is the outside of the thing. So like so, and then just grab that out like that, and we can do the same thing with this inner ring, like so. All right. Then we'll want to, first of all, make sure that we have all of the transforms, actually not all of the transforms, rotation and scale set. Then we'll want to move it to the center of the world. We'll want to export it as FBX, and we'll make it gripper blockout rear wheel. Make sure that we have the basis mesh settings. We should still have those, but still. Move it back. We do the same thing with this. Rotation and scale. Move that to the center. And this would be the front wheel. Like so. Then we can move it back. It's kind of annoying how you have to move things. How we have to move things back. Maybe you don't actually have to do that with Blender 4, but at least previously you needed to do that. So I don't know. We can move this guy down to the plane, onto the plane. Right. We can do that by just snapping him to one of the plane's corners, for example. Like so. Actually, probably what I will want to do still is do the smart UV unwrapping just to have something here. So that was the rear wheel, obviously. That was the rear, and then do the same thing with this. We're not going to texture them currently, so it doesn't quite matter. But I still typically want to have some sort of UV map there. Front. And we can move it back. So now we have two meshes that we can use for this. The asset server should have given us some nice resource paths, which they have. We need to come up with some material for them, though. Let's use one of the blockout materials, probably like the gray one, I think. Copy the clipboard. We can copy the resource path to the clipboard, and we'll just actually render material for the gripper. Can use it like so, and then render. We can use either front or rear here. So let's use front. Oh, I didn't actually copy it. Cam front like so. And if we use front there, then we need to override it for the rear ones. So over there and over here. And we do rear and rear. Oh, and I have my JSON converter immediately complains to me about improperly formatted JSON. That's kind of nice. Valzay says, your game looks very cool. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. It is slowly but surely coming together. Okay, so now we can see that the wheels are, well, there's a lot of things wrong with them, obviously, but the thing that bugs me the most currently is the fact that they're incorrectly rotated. So let's fix that real quick. We shouldn't even have to shut down the game for this. We're going to want to go into edit mode and rotate around the z-axis 180. So just flip them around essentially. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, let's do actually probably median point, right? Around. Yeah, it flips them in a weird way, right? So we don't want it to get weirdly decentered like it was. Let's make sure that we can actually rotate around 3D cursor. Now the 3D cursor is actually sitting right at the center of the wheel. Now we can do 180. Yeah, that should be better. So that was the rear wheel, and then of course let me just quickly grab these coordinates here. Actually, yeah, that's annoying. So that needs to be flipped. Since we flipped the wheel, now we would kind of need to put them on the other side of the vehicle, right? Just quickly grab these coordinates here so that I can then put them back in later. All right, and now like so, rotate C 180, and then we move it back, and we move it back by hand this time around, like so. Now it should be perfectly centered here on this side. Right, for this guy we can we can begin by doing this, so we don't have to mess with the same thing. So just flip the x-axis, then we move it to the center. Actually, yeah, maybe I can do the same thing here. If I take the cursor and move it to the selected, now we should be able to rotate it here around. Rotate Z 180, and then just move it to center. Export as front wheel, and then move it back. Yeah, that should be good. Alright, the wheels probably actually don't auto-update, yeah. Yeah, typically meshes auto-update in the engine, but the wheels, since they don't come from a mesh component, they're put in by the vehicle runtime system. They don't actually auto-update. Okay. Well, so now we have the wheels here looking sort of like they should, but the weird thing is that the vehicle now looks like it's sort of hovering, or the back looks like it's hovering in the air like this. And that is of course because we didn't change those radii on the physics side. So let's do that next. And there's one thing that I need to do here. The rest we can then do on the fly, so to speak. But there's one thing we need to do here. We need to put in these cylinder sizes here, because they're part of the blueprint, and the blueprint doesn't auto-update. Did you write the engine entirely from scratch? Yes. Yes, it's completely self-made. Over a number of years. But yes, it is completely self-made. Okay, so let's have a look still here on this. The dimensions for this wheel was thought I put it to 96, but it's actually like 959. But okay, let's use 46 or 96. Sorry, anyway. So that would make the rear wheels have a radius of 48 or 0.48. So rear wheel would be, I think they're in the same order as in the vehicle definition. So these would be the rear wheels. Radius 0.48, 0.48, and the height would be 0.4 and 0.4, like so. And then the front wheels have a radius 1.35 is the diameter. Okay. And I can't do basic maths in my head, so what is 1.35? 0.675. 75 and 7.5, and the height was 0.5, yeah, so that other value is correct. Now we can put these things into the vehicle definition here. So radius 0.75, width 0.5. We actually want now to override those for the rear wheels again. Mass could be maybe a little less. Let's make it 15 or something. I guess that affects sort of how bouncy or like how much inertia those wheels have. Yeah, what was the radius? That was 0.48 for those. And it goes for the other rear wheel as well. Right, that should be it. I think now we should have the wheels in their correct places and correct sizes and everything. So look at this. Now it looks like it's actually sitting on the ground. That's pretty cool. And if we turn on the physics debug drawing, you can see that the chassis collisions are still obviously wrong, but the wheels look correct. They match very well their visual geometry. All right. So we just have to take this guy for a test run. And yeah, I still think it probably runs too fast, way too fast for its own good. And you can slide around with it quite a bit if you're not careful. Yeah, I'm getting some warnings and errors here from YouTube about some bitrate issues. I'm hoping that the stream continues to come through all right. If not, then I will be uploading these things as VODs as usual. So you should be able to see it that way as well. If for some reason doesn't seem to play nicely for you now live. Okay, here we go. There's actually a roadblock. We can just clear the roadblock by running a development script. But don't tell anyone. All right. And can we fit now into the monorail? That is the question. Of course, we don't have the gripper arm there still, or yet. We will need the gripper arm, but at least sort of we should get a somewhat good idea of how large this thing is. Yeah, we can clearly fit inside the thing. Let's ride it. All right, and we are arriving at the other station. Yeah, I'm gonna have to test this with the full sort of collision geometry with all the parts in place. I think it looks pretty good so far. It's really kind of tricky to drive, but that's kind of the idea with these things. Like, they're not supposed to be super easy to drive. And you can see that, like, obviously we can go like slightly into geometry here because we don't have the correct chassis collision meshes. You might even have to sort of reverse out of this thing, but that's fine. It's kind of supposed to be a little challenging to drive this thing. Yeah, I think this looks quite all right. Whoa. It is kind of slidey though. Might have to actually adjust the center of mass a little bit. I think I want the center of mass to be actually kind of far back, sort of towards this area of the thing. Let's see. Yes, we're using a 4-wheel drive differential. I think that's probably pretty good, especially if we have a lot of heavy things that we are carrying around here with the front, with the gripper arm. We'll want it to be 4-wheel driven. And the center of the mass, let's move it back a little bit, maybe like 1.2 or something. See what happens. Yeah, let's see if we can open the gate. Open the gate. Yeah, it would be cool to have that gripper thing here now. We could just play around with it and lift up things. Yeah, I'm gonna have to actually implement that next. But yeah, this kind of looks like a pretty good start for this. Still not super hyped about the shape of this chassis. I'm gonna have to work a bit more on that. And yeah, I don't think this thing doesn't need like 5 gears forward. So the tuning is completely off still. Because this is essentially like a forklift. It doesn't need to go like, well, we're driving at over 100 kilometers per hour now, so that's kind of a crazy forklift. Yeah, this feels completely different, but that's nice. It's nice that it does that, actually. It's been sort of a problem with the game so far that like most of these vehicles have felt kind of similar, except for the mother vehicle, which is obviously feels completely different from anything else. But yeah, this feels kind of weird and strange. Weird and strange. Okay, let's put in those gripper things, at least like the visuals of them, to get a better sort of feel for what the thing would look like in the game. So we have this thing that I've called the vertical arm. A little bit of water. Super dry throat, just talking so much. I'm going to do a smart UV project on that. And then we're going to move it to the origin. I'm going to export it. And we're going to call it... Oh, actually, this is the correct thing, but we're going to call it gripper blockout vertical arm. That's fine. Move it back, and then we take this guy. And we do the same thing with that. Smart UV project. And yeah, so its origin is currently here. That's probably not where we want it to be. Maybe we actually do. Yeah, maybe we actually do, because it will be fastened to this guy. Yeah. Yeah, we can have it there for now. Might actually be a good idea to have it there in the final version too. Now that I think about it, but we'll see. So, horizontal arm. Oh, hey Lucas. I'm a little bit late today. Well, yes, I am also a little bit late today. I typically do these streams much earlier in the day. And today I figured... actually, I figured I would have been much further with the work for this vehicle. But, as quite often happens, I just had to take care of a whole lot of stuff today, and I didn't get to do nearly as much as I wanted to. But oh well, that happens sometimes. But anyway, yes, I am also, shall we say, this stream is way later than I kind of was originally planning. But nice to see you nevertheless. For this counterweight thing, I'm gonna actually probably move the origin there to the center, where it's sort of gonna be rotating around, if you will. So origin to 3D cursor, let's have it there. So this thing will then sort of rotate like this if we actually sort of, if we decide that is something that we actually want to have. I figured it might look kind of nice, but I don't know. Almost looks like some sort of medieval trebuchet sort of thing. So counter weight, like that. Yeah, let's leave these fingers, or whatever I've called. Yeah, I called them fingers previously. Let's leave them out for now. Let's do this. Add these things there. Actually, did I move it to the origin? I don't think I did. Let's move that to the origin, then we can move it back. So we have a few things now to put in here to our little vehicle. Yeah, collisions. Maybe we can do collisions still today. Let's see. Let's see how far I want to take this today. So I'm kind of thinking that I might want to actually render this arm and all of its components using some sort of runtime system which just creates them on the fly. On the other hand, it might be kind of useful to have them as mesh components that you then just refer to from runtime. Yeah. If I remember correctly, you could actually set the parent for this mesh component, because this will obviously be like parented underneath each other. So this arm will be parented under the chassis. This arm will be parented under this arm. And then the counterweight and these fingers will be parented to this horizontal arm here. And I think the mesh component actually supports parenting, but I can't see it here now, unless I'm completely blind. It's not in the advanced settings either. Have I just quite simply forgotten to add it there? Let's see, mesh component. Mesh component should have a mesh component blueprint properties, indeed. Mesh resource paths. Parent component, yep. Parent component. So it's just called parent. Okay. Yeah, why have I not actually added it here? What's the logic here? So if we read it, it's optional. Yeah, this is C++, as you can see. This is not Zig. Mesh component is not actually written in Zig. No, I mean, you can create meshes, and you can create like a Zig mesh component if you want to, but the built-in engine mesh component is actually C++. So it's set as optional here. And it quite simply just means that it won't give us an error message if it's not given, but it's probably just ignored. Parent component. Let's see, where's the parent component used? Yeah, so it just checks if it's empty or not empty. Mesh nested under another mesh of the parent object. There's a separate C node for this mesh. Okay, so quite simply, it can be, if you have a mesh component and you have then another mesh component underneath it, it can refer to the whatever comes before with this name. So basically, we should be able to do something like this. Actually have one of these file explorers here in the metadata already. So we go to basis and we go to mesh component and we open this up. And here we might have a string somewhere. We don't have a string somewhere. That's probably fine. Let's see, there was a documentation thingy. Yeah, I think the type is just supposed to be string if we do that. So just copy one of these things. That's AI driving component, but that's not mesh component. That was the mesh component. Mesh component. There. Maybe we can put it under advanced settings. It's not really a very advanced setting though. Let's just put it under, what do we want to call it? Dynamic mesh, material mesh position. Yeah, it can come here under the, actually probably before the transform, because it's kind of it's kind of like the thing that then determines how the transform is handled. So I think this is supposed to be string, and the default is then an empty string. And the JSON name we can just get from here. That would be parent. And display name, so parent mesh, I guess. Parent component. And then in the description we can specify the whole thing, parent mesh component. So now if we do this, now we should be able to actually set up the hierarchy for the arm right here. We need to reload the UI definition. We need to reload this particular file as well. So vehicle blueprints, and we go here to the gripper. And here we now have the parent component. Yeah, it's kind of weird how I just didn't have that before. But that's fine. So we can create another mesh component here. Yeah, this mesh is obviously not supposed to have any parent, but we can call it maybe chassis mesh to make it clear what mesh it is. Then we add another component, and we add a mesh component again. And we can copy the chassis mesh, because here we'll want, this is now the new one. This will be the vertical arm mesh. It's a dynamic one, right? Let's see, what was the... also not set as a dynamic one. Resource chassis mesh not found. What? Did I do something bad? Did I do something bad? Let's see, parent component. Parent, yeah, parent should be fine. Yes, I guess the name based on the short name, yes. Yeah, that should be completely fine. Oh, I put it in the wrong place. That would be why. Okay, so horizontal. Right. Gripper. Blockout chassis mesh. Oh, I need to probably, let's see, I need to restart that for it to realize that it actually has some new meshes there. Let's see, gripper. Yes, so now we have the vertical arm right there. We can use like a blockout gray, perhaps. The parent company is now the chassis mesh. That's fine. The position we want to actually set to something though. So Y in Blender is Z in basis, and it's also flipped. So we'll want to have basically this value, but not as a negative value. We want to put that into the Z, and then we want Z is the same as Y, and it's the same signedness, like so. I think that should now probably render it in the right place, and voila, look at that. Will your engine ever be open source or available for donators? Yes, I don't have any way to like accept donations right now, but I am planning, I'm not promising anything, but I'm planning to actually make a considerable amount of this available to anyone, really. So I want to make this game very moddable, and that is one reason I'm using my own tools, because if I own the tools, then I can basically offer them to anyone who wants to make mods or total conversions or anything. As for using the engine to build sort of your own indie game, I think you're probably better off using some established one, because as a single person, I can't ever really offer the same amount of support or feature set as your Unreals and Unities. So that's not necessarily a particularly good idea to use an indie developer's engine. But if you want to mess around with the game or just make something for fun, then yes, I do plan to make these things available to you or whoever wants to mess around with them. So hopefully somewhat soon. Okay, right, so now we have this part here. And it looks to me like it's sitting in the correct place. Obviously we moved it earlier in the stream. This place seems a little arbitrary currently. It does look like the same place though, so we got the coordinates correct. Now I think I actually want to probably... do I still want to keep the pivot there? Maybe I do. Maybe I do want to keep the pivot there. So now if I have this piece here and I move it like in the Y, along the Y axis, right? And I have the center here and the pivot the same as this horizontal piece. Then in theory, I should be able to quite simply add a new mesh here. Mesh component. And we can call this the horizontal arm mesh. And we add the same thing there. We can use the same gray material. And now we want this vertical arm mesh to be the parent component. And I shouldn't have to mess around with this at all. It should just be sitting at like the identity thing. Right, we can see here that we don't want to block the nav mesh for any of these really. No nav mesh blocking. Thank you very much. So that's basically like if you place one of these guys in the level and then you generate the nav mesh, you don't want there to be like a hole where this thing was sitting because it might move. Right. Leon says, I find your entire setup rather interesting and think it would be a good learning resource to go through. Well, maybe. I bet there are better learning resources than this, but sure, yeah. There's some things I'm kind of proud of in this code base. I'm not sure it's like something to actually show to other people and go like, hey, this is how you do it. But yeah, some things are actually kind of nice working. Right, so let's do arm counterweight, and we should have the mesh there. Maybe we can make that have like a what do we call it? What do we make it? Like a brick color, for example. Parent component should again be the vertical arm mesh, but now we actually do need to move this a little bit. So if we now save it, it will appear down here, and that's obviously not the correct place. So let's move it up. Let's move it up 10. Yeah, no, that's way too much. 3, still too much. 2.5, 2.2, 2.2 is starting to be somewhat correct. Now we need to be a bit more precise with this. So 1.1, 1.3, 1.3 looks good. Yeah. So that looks all right. Oh, actually, we don't want to. Well, yeah, we don't want to nest it to the vertical mesh. We want to nest it to the horizontal mesh. Yes. Yeah, like because if like this, if this thing moves like this, then this thing should move as well. Like this, yeah. Exactly. Okay. That looks good. Okay, so now we're getting already like slightly better. We get a slightly better feel for what this, how big this thing actually is in a level. So we can update it here as well. And then we can of course play around with it a little bit. Right, so essentially the only thing we're missing now is the fingers, as I call them. It will be the actual sort of gripper fingers there. But yeah, I think this is kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting to drive around with. I think we should probably still today at least put in the correct collisions for this guy and then see if we can actually like drive around with it in places. So we can't actually spawn it here in this list yet, but if we go into the code, I need to unload this to be able to modify the code. I'll probably have it running here as well, so let's undo that. And I go into, is it app maybe? Yes, here we go. So let's add it here to the list of vehicles. It's called gripper. The distance from the surface is probably the same as for the test vehicle, so let's make it 2 world units. Like so. So now we can just plonk down one of these wherever we want to. Okay, I have, for example, I have a script here that sets. Oh, I don't have it anymore because I removed a whole bunch of things that I was doing a little bit of cleaning previously, but I can do now. Put down a gripper there, and then I can set it as the avatar. I can play from here. Right. Can we fit under here, for example? Yeah, no problem. No problem at all. Yeah, so let's do at least one more thing today. Let's model a simple convex hull for the chassis for this guy, so that we can get a proper collision mesh going for the chassis. And then we can play around with this a little bit. So, the way I usually do this is, and especially now that this is super early, is I just create it here in Blender. And let's see if we actually get along with having just like one. Like this is obviously not a convex shape, this chassis. Here you have like a concave thing, for example. Not to mention this whole pit here in the middle. But we don't have to do it quite on that level. If we want to, we can perhaps. Let's not get fancy today. Let's just add a cube here. I'll call this cube chassis convex hull, like so. And yeah, we just take this guy upwards and take it up as well over there. Then maybe we can extrude it from there. We can extrude it from there as well. And then maybe we can take like these edges. Let's put it individual origins and scale it along the X axis. Maybe we can move it forwards a little bit. A little more maybe. And scale it a little more as well. Yeah, then we take these, scale them a bit as well. Like you don't want to overshoot anywhere like by too much. Let's see, can we get the, what's it called, X-ray? X-ray is what it's called. Right. So yeah, let's get this down to roughly where it's at. Like we have these wheel covers here that are not covered by this currently, and this is also not convex currently, so we need to like bring these out a little bit. But the wheel covers are kind of, they're almost like covered by those wheels. So I think we can live with that for now. Yeah. Maybe something like that. And we can bring this down. And if this doesn't cut it, then of course we can use several of these. We can use several of these convex hulls to try to approximate this a little better. Let's see. Let's probably move that backwards a little bit. Something like that. Right, so now we have like these. This is sort of like an area where it's a little silly. We're overshooting by quite a lot. So let's maybe scale that down. Scale that down as well. Now this is becoming almost concave in some places. Yeah. Something like this maybe. Something like this maybe. That looks pretty convex to me. Yeah, we have some non-planar faces here clearly, but it shouldn't really matter. This is all for the physics engine, so we're not really talking about any faces here. After all, well, we sort of are, but not in like a shading sense. Yeah, something like that. So we have a few places here poking out, and we can see that we have like this thing here, for example, is someone tried to actually like put something in this pit, then they would get sorely disappointed with the current setup. But that's fine. This is probably good enough for this first blockout. Now I think I had a tool that helped us actually bring this into the game. If I can find it. And I think what I needed to do, I haven't done this in like probably a year. Actually when I did the mother vehicle, so last summer, yeah. Right, what I needed to do was export using OBJ, And this is not completely new to me. I've never used the new OBJ exporter for anything ever. This is Blender 4.0, so the old one is gone. Probably for the better. This new one is much faster. So gripper blockout chassis. Oh. Conv hull. Well, we can make it convex hull. Forward axis is, I think, Z, right? And up axis is Y. At least that is what we use in bases. Too many submeshes. Ah, yeah. That's not. We don't want all of them. We only want the selected objects. Selected only. There we go. And export. And yeah, now we have a converter thing. We don't really need to. The thing is, I don't actually need the game engine to even realize that this is a thing. Let's actually get rid of that, because we're not actually going to feed it to the game engine in OBJ form. Instead, we're going to convert it. I'm going to add it to this _work folder, which I have specified in my game project that I don't want the converter trying to actually poke at it. So here inside this, we can open it up and see that we actually got just that one thing. Looks roughly correct. There's nothing inside of it either. No. Right. So let's see. Convex hull converter. This is a small tool that I created. You can just drag an OBJ file onto it. It copies it into a format that we can then just copy paste directly into the blueprint. Let's see what it looks like. So it looks like just a list of points basically. And did we have the gripper vehicle blueprint here? We don't seem to have that. Right, so we have the gripper here. We can see that the collisions don't match. Let's explore to the guy. We have it here, and I'm just gonna copy. Oh, this is test vehicle. So let's go down to gripper. There's gripper, and like so. You just copy paste it in there, and that's it. And then we reload this thing. And there we go. That is our beautiful convex hull. So yeah, the convex hull, if you use it through the dynamic body component, it's just a list of points really. So you can just edit it right here if you want to. Like make this like ridiculously large, like that. But yeah, we obviously don't want to do that. Okay, so that should give us a workable, testable collision volume for the thing for now. So now if I try to collide with one of these guys, the collisions more or less match. Still no collisions on the gripper arm though, obviously. That will come later. But yeah, I think we should try to do the monorail run now. That is sort of the important part for the demo. That can we actually drive this thing and ride in the monorail? And yeah, once you get into it, like a spin with this thing, there's almost no way of getting out of it. Of course, it shouldn't be going so fast that it actually goes into a spin, but that is currently what's happening quite easily. All right. You can take really tight corners with it, though. That's nice. Like, it almost turns on a dime. No, not quite, but almost. That's good. And then I need to come up with some fancy input scheme for the arm. How to move the arm. Yep. That still works fine. Again, I'm spinning. Spinning so easily. Alright, let's see. Drive into the monorail. Yeah, you can sort of clip through some of the geometry still. I could probably need to use at least a couple of convex hulls to approximate this chassis. But that's to be expected. And here's another stupid thing. Like, you can see that as we are riding this, we're now at 55 kilometers per hour, and we're like in 5th gear. Even though I'm not actually applying the gas at all. And as we approach the other station, we're slowing down. Now we're at like 40 kilometers per hour. So the cars don't realize currently that they're sitting stationary inside of like a moving body, which means that you can't, for example, reverse, because you can only switch from like driving forward into reverse if the vehicle has been like standing still for a little bit. So those sorts of annoying things. I need to somehow introduce some kind of transform parent system where you can tell the car that, okay, you're inside of this monorail now, and the monorail might be moving, but you are not necessarily moving inside of the monorail, so don't consider yourself moving right now, etc., etc. Yeah, it's kind of tricky to actually get out of this. Like, this brings Austin Powers to mind. Which is of course not necessarily a bad thing. And I'm kind of stuck inside of this monorail car. Let's see, how can I get out of this? I can sort of nudge myself against that wall. Like, you might have to actually sort of back out of this thing. Might just be the easier thing to do. Or then I need to make the front wheels actually steer as well. I mean, we can do that. The mother vehicle currently steers with all wheels except the rear ones. Right, so if you're sitting like this, then you just sort of reverse out of this monorail, like this. Yeah. Yeah, that works. I think the overall size of this is pretty good. It's quite big. larger than the scout vehicle. That's not necessarily a problem. I wasn't necessarily thinking it would be that large, but what it is. Oh well. So the next thing for me would be to start messing around with this, or shall we say, not messing around, but actually implementing this arm and this gripper, and then we can start to move cargo around with this thing. And that should then actually let me start working on the mission, on the demo mission, which is kind of interesting. Let's lift this thing up. And now the crane should actually, because we didn't do it very, we didn't make the collisions match the visuals completely. It kind of attaches to thin air, but you can still lift it around. And you can see that it's actually, I moved the center of mass to the quite far back on the gripper vehicle, so you can see that it's sort of hanging with like its rear downwards. That makes sense. There's still some stuff that's going to come there in the front, so I think that makes perfect sense. Yeah, here you can see this mother vehicle is actually turning with like all vehicles except the last one, but it just turns less with the two middle wheels. So, yeah, I think that's probably quite enough for today, quite enough work for today. Tomorrow I'll start working on the arm. Hopefully it doesn't take very long to have it grabbing and gripping things. And then I need to do another pass on the actual chassis of this. I think this vehicle is probably going to be the first one that I try to make actually final in like the visual sense, because I just happen to be working on it now, so I might as well just finalize this. Obviously none of these other vehicles are final. They're very bare bones and block out still at this point. Cool. All right, any questions before we end this stream? I might actually also want to try something. Let's see if I quickly try something here. Like, we have these front wheels. They're ever so slightly wider than the rear wheels. But my original thought, before I sort of ran into some sort of visual issues, if you will, was to actually have them be quite a bit further apart than the rear wheels. So let's move them further apart. Let's not care currently if they look out of place visually. So now they're sort of intersecting with the visuals a little bit. And that's fine. We can figure out some nice way to handle the wheels being wider there. This was sort of closer to what I had originally envisioned for this. Maybe we can make it even a little further. Let's make it like 65. That's kind of nice when you can just tweak those values and see them immediately. Like the vehicle doesn't even necessarily stop. It just keeps running and then the wheels just move. Like, how does this feel to actually drive? It does feel a little more stable like this. That might be a good thing for a vehicle like this. So I might just have to figure out some way to actually open up this wheel cover here, sort of like we have here in the back, and not have them completely integrated like they are currently. Yeah, I think this feels nicer. This feels nicer, and I think it might actually look nicer as well if they're sort of open there on the side. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, I got stuck on this. Oh no. I need to help it, I need to nudge it off the pipe. While still being careful myself that I don't get stuck with this vehicle. There we go. Then we can switch. It's so nice that when the vehicle switching is working now. I've been living without proper in-game vehicle switching for a long time. You have very light back in this vehicle. Yeah, the thing is that I actually moved the center of the mass back quite a lot, which I actually just talked about. I don't know if you were actively listening, but if you put in like a mother vehicle here, and then we drive around to the back like this, and then we lift it up using the crane, like so, because you can just choose where the center of the mass is in these vehicles. So I moved it back a little bit because I'm sort of expecting the back wheels to slip quite a bit. Right, let's not lift it there. Let's lift it somewhere in the middle. Like there. Yes, it's not actually sitting on the mesh because the collisions aren't that accurate. But if you now lift it up, you can see that it's actually sort of hanging with the back a little bit. The back is lower, even though there's a lot of stuff in the front, because the center of the mass actually is very far in the back. Like we can make it, even as it is hanging there, we can move it even further back. So like one meter more, and you can see that now it's really heavy. So it's actually not very light in the back. It's quite kind of heavy in the back. The question is it actually too heavy or not? I'm gonna put it back to like 1.2, and now you can see that it sort of evens itself out a little bit. Yeah. And then just let it go. But yeah, it does slip quite easily still, even though it is the center of mass is pretty far in the back. It does still slip quite easily, especially if you drive a little faster, and you're not supposed to be able to drive as fast as you currently can with this. So that will sort of solve some of those issues. Now if you drive like 100 here and you start to the turn, then it just slips immediately. And it feels like it's very light in the back because it has this arm and everything here in the front. But this, of course, doesn't weigh anything because we haven't actually added any physics for them yet. But the this collision does make it a little, like, it calculates the inertia to be sort of more in the front, even though we offset it with the center of the mass towards the back, because the shape is sort of thicker in the front. Yeah, but yes, it does feel like it is quite light in the back, and it does. I'm sure it looks like that way as well, especially to you who can't really feel the gameplay and how it feels to drive. But yeah, it should be much slower actually. It should probably be something like, let's try with a little bit of cruise control. Can I activate the cruise control? There we go. Yeah, so probably something like 30 kilometers per hour is probably, maybe 40 if we're feeling particularly crazy. That's already starting to slip a little bit at 40. I think like 30 kilometers per hour for this vehicle is probably good enough. Yeah, with 30 you can't really slide, it's just turning very nicely. Yeah, we'll see. All right. Yeah, I think I'm pretty much done for today. It's been a long day. I had to mess with all kinds of things before I got to the actual work. But this is a pretty good start for this vehicle. Let's see how easy it will be to actually pick up things with it and move them around. I'm hoping it will be somewhat easy. Feel somewhat good. What if you put down like a truck here, and you can sort of, at least by eye, you can sort of see. Yeah, you can at least like consider having those gripper fingers there, and you can just like drop things into another vehicle. Yeah, that at least works. The vehicle is driven by all. It's a 4-wheel drive vehicle right now. We can change that if we want to. So limited slip 4-wheel drive. Let's cheat a little bit and see what the actual huh? Is that not what it's called? Vehicle. Vehicle description. Here we go. Ah, right. It was like it's like an else case. It had all of the other ones. Right, so we'll probably want to have the limited slip once. We can have the front wheel drive. That would be LSFWD. Let's put that in there. it should immediately update to one of those. So now it's front wheel driven. Feels somewhat the same. I think this thing should probably either be front wheel driven or four wheel driven. Let's make it rear wheel driven and see what happens. Yeah, so now we just it's a little it's a bit more slidey. And you have like that. You have the small wheels in the back that are also turning or like steering, driving it. It looks a little strange, I have to say. Yeah, I think like four-wheel drive is probably what you want. And CUC Lock says, "Wow, it looks good." Well, thank you. It's I'm not super happy with it currently, at least from a visual perspective. But yeah, it's getting there. So we have only like some of the pieces here. Like it should have these. We can hide that one. It should have these gripper fingers or whatever we end up calling them. To actually finish the arm. It looks a little weird without them, but yeah, I haven't put them in yet. Yeah, I was originally thinking it would be front wheel driven. It basically happened to be four wheel driven because I copy pasted the definition from the Scout vehicle. But I kind of like the feel sort of it being four wheel driven. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe it will end up being front wheel driven. It kind of makes sense that it would be, and a vehicle like this in real life would most likely be front wheel driven. However, we did move the center of mass quite far back, just to counter the fact that this might actually grip some like dynamic object here, and because of that it would sort of weigh a bit more in the front. And I'm thinking like if we have the center of mass be in the back and then we have it front wheel driven, then it might actually slip quite a lot if you try to move up like a hill or something. So that's what that is sort of my reasoning for having it be four wheel driven right now. But yeah, maybe we should experiment a little bit with that and see how it works. I'm also not certain how well it will work to actually grip those objects with this thing. I'm thinking I probably might have to at least somehow lock them to the transform of the vehicle so that you don't actually accidentally drop them or anything like that. But we might want to keep them as dynamic objects, I guess. Which means that it would actually affect the mass of the thing. Like this crane, for example, here. This crane has a physics joint, a fixed physics joint, which means that it essentially sort of glues the car to the magnet body when you lift something like this. but still a dynamic object, which is why you can see like the suspension of the mother vehicle being sort of compressed when you lift something up with this. And we might want to have this gripper work the same way, that if you like, if you're gripping something that's kind of heavy, then the gripper will be sort of front loaded, like from a physical perspective as well. Here's something that I actually added since the last video. Now you can reach vehicles with this crane. Like if we move this end of the crane up, you can see that we can't switch to that vehicle. But now if we move it back down, you can switch to it again. So that now works. Suspension should be more stiff, yeah, probably. Yeah, this is almost like some sort of American car from the 50s now with very loose suspension. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff here that needs to be fixed. This is basically just a scout car now with a slightly different wheel setup. Tutu says another cool vehicle. Yeah, at some point it will be, I hope. Yeah, I've been sort of grumbling this whole stream about how I don't like the look of this currently, but yeah, it is coming along. I didn't really have time to prep for this as I had planned, so that got a little in. It's a little half-baked currently, but yeah, once we get this gripping system working, then I can get back to the chassis, make sure it looks nice, because it currently looks kind of weird. And like this thing in the back here, this whatever this is, which I just modeled sort of brainlessly and kind of hastily. This looks almost like a semi-truck thingy now. No, like one of these things. What do you call them? Like the connector to the trailer. And that's not supposed to be supposed to be essentially like the hood of the engine or something, but yeah, I sort of ran out of time and now it looks kind of weird. But it does feel very different to drive, and that's nice. And that is something I wanted to achieve with this, and hopefully it will be fun to play around with when we get the grippers working. And yeah, I quite often just slide into something with it. But that's part of the fun with this game, just sliding into things. Cool. Yeah, I'm glad you like it. I'm on the fence about it, but it'll be good. And I I need this for my planned demo mission that I wanna release as like the main thing of this demo that I'm hoping to put out reasonably soon. I need this thing for that. So it has a purpose. And yes, physics playground is indeed always fun. I hope to put out like it probably needs another level completely, but I hope to put out or create like a level with just like I'm imagining some sort of like construction site or something with just like loads and loads of dynamic objects and some things to like mess around with. Maybe just a row of cars, and then you can just go crazy in that. And it should be good for testing out gameplay as well. So hopefully that'll be part of the demo too. Shouldn't take that long to make. Looks so cozy. Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean you've said that before, and I appreciate it. That's very nice of you. This world will be much more blocky than the Project Slide stuff. If you're comparing to that, not this blocky though, but but quite a bit simpler than that art style. Mainly just because it takes ages to make, and I kind of wanna put out something soon. Whoa! Did you create this whole engine from scratch yourself in Zig? The engine is not Zig. The engine is mostly C++. The game is Zig, and or it's sort of like a, how should I put this? There is a pretty large amount of components that are C++, and you can create. If we go and have a look at what we did today, we have the gripper vehicle here that we worked on today in this stream. So you can sort of see what is C++ and what is Zig. If you, I mean, I don't know how easily, and I can't really zoom this because my editor doesn't support zooming, but you can see like : here, basis : dynamic transform, dynamic body transform component. That's a C++ component because you can see that it has like : which is the namespace separator there. Then we have a Zig component, that's VHL, vehicle helper library. Means vehicle component is also a Zig component, Zig component. Then we have some meshes here, these are C++ again. Then again we have some Zig stuff. So it's just like a mix of a lot of different things. And then of course if we're talking about what the engine is written in, well this is the asset browser app. This is written in C#. This is the level editor, it's also written in C#. But it does run Zig stuff. And so it's a mix of a lot of things like that. But yes, it's completely self-made. Yeah, dig site might actually fit the sci-fi theme of this quite nicely. Been thinking about something like that. Like this is supposed to be on another planet, which is why you have this moon here in the background. It's not very decorated yet, this area, I know, but yes, it's not supposed to be on Earth. It's supposed to be on another planet, and there are all kinds of industrial things going on in the background. So a dig site could be kind of fitting. But yes, the main thing is that we should have a lot of dynamic objects that we can mess around with. There's some squeaky noise every now and then, which goes well with the car you're moving around. That's interesting. I don't have any squeaky noises yet. I should have more squeaky noises actually. Yeah, you can actually see that this this new vehicle actually did inherit the engine sound from the scout vehicle as well. That's probably through one of these components here. Vehicle FX. Oh, isn't actually perhaps here in this? Yeah, no, it's not. I wonder where it actually does get the. Can't remember these things myself, even though I like wrote them a few months ago. Let's see, game unit, AI brain, driving component, night track component. Maybe its vehicle effects component actually just has some like hard-coded thing. Let's see. If I go to, yeah, it's just a hard-coded thing. So some vehicles have this component, some don't, and so this is the engine sound. Yeah, it was called the grub previously. Maybe it's my chair. Yeah, maybe it is. Yeah, I should have some sounds actually being played to. Oh, I have multiple of the game running. I should have some sounds being played according to like how the suspension moves, things like that. And all of that is still missing. I don't think we can hear any sounds from the game. Oh, I might just have the mix too low. I do capture the desktop audio. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, I need to look into the whole mixer side in OBS. It's probably just way too loud. Or way too low, sorry. I can probably just bump it up from here though. Master volume. Like 3. Can you hear it now? Make it even louder. 5. Like it does look like it's coming through on the OBS side, but I'm not sure it actually does. Yeah, you might be hearing my desktop audio just coming through my own microphone, which is obviously not what you're supposed to be hearing. Anyway, let's put down the audio to 1. Cool. Right, I'm making my own game from scratch in Zig. Haven't even started thinking about shadows, models, etc. So much work in the game engine. Indeed, it is. Yes. I've been working on this engine for over 10 years now, so I definitely know what you mean. Actually, this level editor, this thing is turning 10 years this year. Like in the summer, I realized that I actually started this thing in 2014 in the summer, and at that point I already had something on the engine side running, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff. But I suggest you keep at it if you like doing this kind of thing. It's very fun to see things coming together. Oh, so apparently you heard the audio when I raised it up quite a bit. Yeah, I mean you see the stream with a bit of a delay, of course, and then I see your answers with a bit of a delay. Yeah, so I probably just need to like up this to like 5 or 6 or something. But like on the OBS like levels display, it looks like the game audio is higher volume than my talking. I'm not sure if that is actually the case. Yeah, I should listen to the VOD after this and figure out what was going on. Yeah, all right. I need to figure out the whole audio thing. I'm not super experienced with this whole streaming overall, so it's much easier when you record in advance and then you can do a little bit of audio mixing. All right. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. Filament engine development, everything from C++, C#, from scratch. Yeah, yeah. That's sort of the thing. That's sort of the thing that happens when you build an engine. Is you make very nice tools and then you just don't build the game. And I'm sort of in a place now where I realize that I just need to put this thing out if I ever want to finish it. And so I have a pretty tight schedule improving and working on the demo currently. Which is also why I'm streaming a lot more than I've done previously. Or I haven't actually really even streamed before a few weeks ago, but like just putting out more videos. Not as audible as the voice. Okay. Well, good to know. Good to know. I need to figure that out. See what is what. Right. I went away from C++. Now I'm using C style. Yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing. There are no bindings for box 2D. Yeah. I think there's something you could use though. I haven't used it myself, but this thing, box2dc, so C API for portability to other languages. I think this should or maybe could work just out of the box with SIG, because SIG consumes C APIs very well. Oh, this is really old though. Yeah, that's not nice. Okay. Yeah. Does Box2D not have a C API though? Maybe it doesn't. Yeah, I guess it doesn't. Well, if you're interested in Zig, then now we're stuck. Why are we stuck? Yeah, we're somehow stuck in a slope. Yeah, if you're interested in Zig, I will say that it's not super difficult to make bindings for the stuff you need, and you can start out pretty small and then expose more and more as you go. Of course, everything that I access from my engine is essentially hand exposed, because my engine is C++ and SIG doesn't speak C++. I need to essentially expose everything explicitly by hand, and it's kind of a big piece of work, but it's not that big if you just expose whatever you need as you actually need it. So yeah, I definitely think you could expose what you need from Box 2D just through a C API if you're interested in that kind of stuff. Well, yeah, I mean, sort of have to know how to represent those things in a C API, which is not always super easy, but it can be done. I wrap a lot of C++ behind SIG, and it works just fine. You just have to deal with certain things being sort of maybe not as type safe or performant as you'd like. Thanks for streaming. I might check out a couple of YouTube videos. Yes, please do if you're interested in this sort of stuff. Oh, Erin is making a new version. That's cool. Yeah, it's interesting that people are sort of going back to C. It's not that one apparently. Box 2C. Yeah, I guess this is the one you mentioned. Looks to be completely C. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I mean then you can sort of perhaps even take like inspiration for this, for how a C API for Box 2D might look like if you wanted to actually wrap it yourself. But of course, if he's making one, then maybe you just want to wait. Right. Okay, folks. I think I'm gonna end the stream here. Nice of you to stop by. I need to continue working on this so that we can move on to other things. But this was kind of interesting. A lot of new things for me to do. It wasn't as straightforward as I was originally hoping, but nothing ever is. So what are you gonna do? But anyway, thanks for today, and thanks to everyone who stopped by, and thanks to everyone who may or may not watch the VOD. Please like, subscribe, do all the things. Interestingly, as I started streaming the first time, I've actually started losing subscribers. It's kind of makes sense in a way, I guess, because some people just don't want to see these streaming notifications all the time. They just want to have sort of videos as they come out. So I fully understand that, but if you're interested in this, then please consider subscribing, liking, spreading the word, all of the things the channel can do with some more subscribers. And yeah, I guess that's it for today. Hope to see you in future videos. Have a good one, and bye.